All right, young scholars, this week we are focusing on some advanced PHP. We're going to review some concepts about PHP from Info 2105 and delve into a few more advanced topics. So if you download the PowerPoint provided, you will find that it will open this PowerPoint here. So to review, PHP is a server-side programming language. It's designed for quick development of HTML-based dynamic web pages. Server-side scripts embedded in HTML pages require the bracket question mark PHP, your code, question mark, closing the bracket. As I mentioned in Info 2105, PHP runs on a server. So your server must have PHP. You upload your HTML file and PHP file onto a server. The client will only see what the PHP code does, not the PHP code itself. That is why a lot of people tend to use a lot of PHP code within their HTML file so that the individuals can't copy or infect their websites. You may recall that PHP had variables. They're dynamically typed. You don't have to declare them. So here are some examples of correct ways to do variables. $ value equals 1, $x equals 1.4, etc. $my name equals Rasmus. And then here are two examples of incorrect ways. Your name does not have a $ in front of it, so it's invalid. It's not going to work. And $711 is also invalid because the first parameter after the $ cannot be a number. So you'd have to type out 7 if you wanted to use that as your variable name. So on slide 4 here, we have both PHP and HTML code. So here in the first bullet, you see HTML code. We're starting our HTML. We're creating our header. We're putting a title within the header. We're closing that header, and then we're creating our body. Then you notice on lines or bullets 2 through 4, this is all PHP code. But then when you get to the next bullet, this is again only HTML code. You'll remember from Info 2105, our paragraph tag, this line was not. And then we switch back. The next 3 bullets again are an example of PHP code. And then the last bullet here is an example of HTML code. Now on slide number 5, you'll see this WYSIWYG link here that if you click and open, we're using the echo function within PHP in order to display text. And it can be modified to display any text that you choose. So if you open up that link, you'll see a WYSIWYG example. Very simple. Your PHP code is simply embedded in the body section of your HTML file. Using the echo function, all we do is say my first PHP script. We can click inside those quotes and edit what is written there. We can basically write anything using echo that we choose to write. So let's say I am really enjoying learning PHP. Exclamation point. Now we run that code and it will display exactly what we've put inside our echo function. So whatever you change this to, when you run it, will be displayed using that code. You'll notice how very simple it is. You're just using the echo function within PHP to display out whatever text that you so choose. As I just pointed out in that previous example, whatever you do, whatever text you put inside the function will be printed to the screen. So you could also use the print function to do the same thing, just like you did previously in the previous example with the echo function. Slide 7, we're assuming that we have this file called webdictionary.txt, and these are what is listed inside. Our abbreviations for AJAX, our abbreviations for CSS, our abbreviations for HTML, our abbreviations for PHP, our abbreviations for SQL rather, etc. So then we would use a function within PHP to open that and then echo out everything that's inside of it. So we set up this my file, which is going to be your display here. Function open that webdictionary.txt, and then we have R for read. You may have seen this on your permissions on your own laptop. R is for read, W is for write. You may have both of them. Or if that file doesn't exist, it's going to tell you unable to open the file. But since we know it exists, we go ahead and echo function read. We read that my file, the entirety of the file size, and we put in the name of the file. And then once it is echoed out and displayed here, we do function close that file. So if the file doesn't exist, we simply get a display of unable to open file. But because it does exist, it spits out everything within that file. And you see here the code I just showed you and the display output as you just saw on the previous screen. So again, first the file is opened, then the echo section displays the file's content with the echo function read, and then it's closed with the function close. On slide 9 here, we have an example of retrieving stock info. This would be a file called stocks.html. All this simple code allows us to do is enter in a stock symbol number, click submit. Then it uses the PHP file here, stocks.php, to go through and search on Yahoo Finance for the current stock price of whatever you had entered in. So the PHP code does all of the work. It goes and finds, let's say you want to find the stock price for Yahoo. It goes and finds it, and it will echo out. So whatever stock price you are entering, and then you click submit, that stocks.php does all the work. It goes and finds the stock price, and because of the echo, displays it back out to you. In this instance, it's creating a table. So it may be, let's say, over the last week, it gives you the individual stock prices for that selection you chose. On slide 11 here, we have PHP code. We are opening a file called newfile.txt. And this time, instead of reading, we have our write option here. And we're adding text of John Doe, function write. Within that file, we put in that text, and then Jane Doe. Again, function write, my file text, and close the file. So what happens here is in the previous example, If it didn't have that file, it would end. It would just tell you it's unable to open a file. In this instance, if you don't have this new file.txt, it will create one. And then you could add in the names John and Jane Doe. So it's either going to write to a file that already exists, or it's going to create a new file to allow you to write to by adding those two names. And then once that's done, function close closes out either that new file that you just created or the file that you opened to write those two names into. Here on slide 12, we have an example of different ways of displaying date using the echo function. So if you were to copy that code into your WYSIWYG, the PHP WYSIWYG provided, you'll notice here we have echo today is date year/month/day, year.month.day, year-month.day, and then date L for length is going to tell you what the day is. So today is Friday, and then displaying the date 3 different ways based on your echo. So if you wanted to do this more along the lines of the way we commonly do it, you do month, day, year instead. Entirely up to you. But this is what PHP helps us with in allowing us to create dynamic portions of our website. So you have the echo today is date on your website. It's going to update every time you go to the website. So here on slide 13, if you were to click open the notes and copy your HTML files provided, it would provide you with a simple PHP form like so, where our whole purpose is to make sure that everything is submitted that is required. In this case, name, email, gender option. When you click submit, your input will be displayed where this red text is. And then lastly, another reason we use PHP is it easily interacts with other common types of tools we use when developing websites, such as JSON, AJAX, HTML, XML, and SQL. Very commonly used with SQL because SQL is databases. And as you'll see later in the course when we touch on databases, PHP can help you store all this form information, login passwords, etc., into a database, which is another reason people use PHP in order to prevent individuals from seeing the entirety of the HTML code.